bereaved.org.uk/sport. And I'll have more for you in the next hour. See you then.
Holly, thank you very much. A new report from the University of Manchester has revealed that more than a third of those who've lost loved ones to suicide reported mental health problems afterwards. The findings from the Impact of Suicide report are based on responses from more than 7,000 people and suggest almost 40% of bereaved families and friends had themselves considered taking their own life after the suicide. Well, let's bring in two guests to talk about this, and a warning that some of the issues being talked about may be distressing to some of you. Dr. Sharon McDonnell, one of the report's authors from the University of Manchester, is also the Managing Director of Suicide Bereavement UK. And I'm also joined by Shirley Smith, the founder of the If You Care Share Foundation. She lost her son Daniel to suicide in 2005. Thank you both very much for joining me. Dr. McDonnell, if I could start with you. First of all, let's talk about the report, because there are a number of aspects of this that I found shocking. I'm just wondering if you were shocked at all by some of this.
Well, actually, predominantly no, in some ways, because we kind of know that people bereaved by suicide are at risk of dying by suicide, but it's anecdotal. Now we've done this research and over 7,000 people have participated. This is evidence that these people are actually struggling. So it's actually confirming what we actually thought. But this is the largest suicide bereavement survey internationally.
I've mentioned there those who themselves go on to take their own lives after a suicide, but one of the figures that struck me was 135 people are affected for every one suicide.
Yes, so absolutely. So, you know, that does sound a lot, but this is research has been conducted. Initially, we used to think it was 6. So for 6,000 suicides, you have 135 people that are bereaved by suicide. Some of these are at risk of dying by suicide. So it's nearly over 800,000 people a year that are bereaved by suicide, and they struggle to access support at a time of high risk and intense need.
Shirley, you lost your son Daniel to suicide in 2005. There was nothing to give away there was a problem.
No, Daniel, from all, from the outside looking in, showed no signs of what was going on internally. And, that for that reason, it literally came out of the blue. He had hopes and aspirations and plans for the future, and our lives were just turned upside down the day that he ended his life.
We're talking about the impact on others, and your other children. I think they were 10 and 5 at the time. Just explain what effect a suicide has on that family unit.
I think the impact that it has certainly on our children at the time, it's difficult to explain, because one of our children, Matthew and Ben, both were there when Daniel took his life when we returned home. So the layers of that impact go on to infinity. Trying to support children, my husband and I, felt failures as parents, because we'd let them down, and now we had 2 young children with very, very complex needs that we just didn't know how or what to do to support them. And it was just, even thinking back now, I struggle to find the words of trying to deal with it.
And looking for that support and helping others to find that support. That's why you took part in this report.
We went on to start a foundation ourselves, which was actually started by our children. And I think one of the things that, and the work that we do with the charity that we set up, the If You Care Share Foundation, is that we are supporting people across the North East area that we face this daily, and not having any level of academic research to show the true impact of the things that our team do face was really important, because people, I think one of the things that we've seen is people are shocked by the level of impact, but for us it just reinforces why support services are so important for timely and appropriate support.
Dr. McDonnell, Sharon, if I may, your academic research is built, sadly, on experience too, because you lost your brother to suicide.
Yes, that's right. So that was 30 years ago I lost my brother. I was the eldest of 6 children. And, one day my brother was here, then the next he wasn't. And I didn't know anybody else that had lost someone to suicide. And it's kind of, you don't know where to look, where to turn. There was nothing. There's little these days for people, but there was even less then. And I think what's very special, people like Shirley and myself, I educated myself, done a degree, PhD, and specialise in suicide bereavement research. And I want to say, which I think is really important, out of everything bad in life, if we look hard enough, we can find some good. And I believe Shirley's dedication, myself in research, we do it in memory of the people that we've lost, because we know in the future people are needing support. And it's our way of giving back and trying to help ensure people in the future are not going to suffer from the same level of isolation and stigma as we did when we lost our loved ones.
I wanted to pick up on that because it is remarkable to hear you both talking about it. And Shirley, picking up on that point about stigma, it's great that people do now talk about it, because it wasn't that long ago. It did have that stigma.
In 1961, it was still illegal to end your own life, and I think the stigma that has been inherited from that is still there. We've come a long, long way. Certainly even since the time of losing Daniel, but with regards to stigma, I think it can actually, it impacts on people asking for support and asking for help. The more that we're able to talk about it in a way that it prevents further deaths. However, talking is very good. It's what comes next, and that's action. And I think for us and the team that have worked on the study, we've done the groundwork. We knew, or we had a good idea of the impact of suicide. Now with the study, we have the foundation to now build and move this forward, so people do and are able to access support if they need it.
Dr. McDonnell, many people watching may share some of your experiences. Many people will say, what can we look for? What are the signs that we need to spot before it gets to the point where people are thinking of taking their own lives?
So I can only talk from in relation to a bereaved person, and what we do know is that people bereaved by suicide are potentially at risk of dying by suicide. So if that person is bereaved, we need to engage quickly with these people. And society, we struggle with death at the best of times, and COVID now, we get people at society showing more interest in this, but we need to engage with these people, not wait for them to come to us. We need to be proactive and engage with these people so we can help to reduce the risk, because we know a lot of these people are at risk of dying by suicide. I'd also like to add, which is very, very important, there is two sides to this coin. You have the bereaved people who are at risk of dying by suicide, and you have the professionals that come into contact with us that don't receive any training, guidance, and struggle to deal with this. And some of the health professionals are also at risk. So we need to look at both sides so that we can both move forward, and everyone matters, and everyone, I think, should be cared for.
Shirley, I can see you nodding at that.
Yeah, I resonate with everything that Sharon says there. It's something that nobody is immune to the impact of suicide, whether that's in a professional or a personal capacity. And the way in which services are provided at the moment, we just need to really build on what is happening in some areas of the country, and around the findings that have been announced today. As frightening and as staggering as they are, we do know that actually with the right level and timely approach and offer of help, that people can get through. I myself felt as though I was at a point, and I know within our family it was the same. However, having experience that and have a level of understanding, having somebody to tell me that that was as normal as it could be, but actually it was from another set of parents who'd been through a similar loss. You just don't know where to turn, because the grief and the impact are so devastating, and you know those ripples go out far and wide.
Finally, Sharon, and talking to Shirley, she said when Daniel took his life, it was a crime. Language has changed. The phrase committing suicide comes from that era. We don't say that anymore. It's important that people understand, perhaps, in a way they didn't just decades ago, what is involved here.
No, you're absolutely right. So your viewers, if I could ask one thing of them, as Shirley said, it was a crime in 1961, but it's no longer a crime. If you only learn today, please don't say commit. He died by suicide. And I would also like to say, please don't avoid us. You know, I can understand you don't have to have the right words, but avoiding us only causes more sense of isolation, shame, stigma, which we know increases the sense of helplessness, hopelessness, which we know are risk factors for suicide. Well,
thank God we're talking about it now, and thank you both very much for your time this afternoon. That's Dr. Sharon McDonnell and Shirley. Thank you both very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.